boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
So the Iranian foreign minister went out on NBC News last night, and I'm sure the NBC News stooges probably are even surprised that the Iranian foreign minister is still alive, let alone the deputy foreign minister. I mean, the whole foreign ministry infrastructure is still in place, as is the president, the former president, despite the fact that they were unalived in the first series of strikes, along with Ayatollah Khamenei and several members of the Iranian leadership, military leadership, the IRGC leadership. And the Iranian foreign minister was asked a very interesting question, because we've obviously seen Trump say that he's open to the idea. He's still thinking about the idea of sending U.S. troops into the region, doing a buildup of forces. Now that we see that the Kurdish proxy groups are being activated, there's probably going to be a Kurdish, militant group invasion. These groups, not all of them, but most of them are backed directly by the CIA, by Mossad. And there also is splintering amongst these groups, right? Because they have different goals and objectives. So some of them say that we only recognize one Kurdish authority, and if these Kurdish militant groups try to fight against Iran, the Iranian PKK, if they try to create some sort of a secessionist movement in Iran, they're not going to be supported. And Turkey might come in and activate their military assets to go to war against these Kurdish groups fighting against Iran. There's also the threat of Azerbaijan, right? Azerbaijan is moving military assets and troops to its border after there was allegedly a drone attack on Azerbaijan that was amplified by Baku TV, despite the fact that, of course, Iran claimed that they had nothing to do with that it was, in all likelihood, Mossad or the United States doing some sort of a false flag attack. But anyways, the Iranian foreign minister was asked a question: are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in Iran? And I loved his response because, well, you'll see it for yourself how shocked the TV news presenter is in the United States when he received his answer. Take a listen.
Boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
So I love that answer on so many levels. I mean, he says, no, we're waiting for the U.S. forces to come in and try their invasion, right? It's a way different thing to have Kurdish proxy groups in Azerbaijan try to launch some sort of strikes from afar or partial invasion of territory, right? Than it would be to have U.S. ground troops, okay? Not saying that either is going to go well or smoothly for the parties that try, the belligerents that try to carry out the operations of this kind. But boy, oh boy, we're waiting for you. What a response. And it is true that, of course, they prepared for this. They prepared for heavy strikes. They prepared for any eventuality. They prepared even for nuclear strikes, I'm sure. What would happen if they decided to do carpet bombing all across the country, and if they attempted to drop tactical nukes on all of the missile silo facilities and the missile launching facilities and maybe even a nuclear bomb in Tehran? I'm sure they prepared for each and every possibility. And right now, what they're getting, I mean, they had a decapitation strike, they had the strike on the Ayatollah, and they are in no way deterred. That did not knock out the Iranian operating network and infrastructure, and they've been dealing much more than a bloody nose, okay? Just to put in perspective, I'm sure most of you saw the journalist from CNN, and shout out to him. You know, maybe he has nefarious aims of going into Iran, but he entered Iran through the border. We don't know if he has nefarious aims, if he's going to be providing intelligence, but the intelligence that he has conveyed on CNN is hilarious. I mean, he's like sitting at a coffee shop. He's driving into Tehran. He's like, oh, yeah, we saw some smoke, right? We saw some smoke from some of the missile attacks on Iran, but everything is operating smoothly. The groceries are fresh. The coffee's hot. And, nothing really all that noticeable has changed in day-to-day life besides the plumes of smoke that are arising and the attacks on civilian infrastructure. But beyond that, people are operating as normal. You know, it's not like they're rushing to get to the grocery store to hoard goods or anything like that. And he was very shocked by that. The other thing that Foreign Minister Arakchi brought up is the updating and upgrading of the missile systems and the missile capabilities. And that's one thing that we've definitely seen from Iran. I mean, we've seen Iranian and Hezbollah missiles enter into occupied Palestine, the Zionist entity, with little to no air defense, firepower being put up to try to stop these missiles in many instances. In some cases, we've seen Iranian missiles glide right past 20 layers of Israeli air defense, 20 projectiles being shot up in the air to try and stop these Iranian missiles. And in other cases, there's just no way to stop these missiles. You have now twice, I've seen on two separate nights, we've seen the Khorramshahr 4 missile launched from Iran with cluster munitions, cluster warheads. And we're talking dozens, if not hundreds of these cluster munitions. And there's no way to stop that. And it's incredible because you see these Zionist accounts and the Israeli government, they're like crying about the use of cluster munitions. They say, oh, Iran is violating the Geneva Convention. And it's like, wow. All you've done since October 7, 2023 and before, and you're crying about cluster munitions. You were the ones that, from the start of this conflict, which you started, both times, I might add, this most recent one, bombing over, I think it was 175 individuals, primarily, little girls, 7 to 10-year-olds at that primary school in Manab in Iran. They bombed the volleyball court that had 40 to 60 martyrs, 40 to 60 deaths, also young women playing volleyball, practicing volleyball. They've bombed 3 hospitals in Iran thus far. They're bombing tons of civilian infrastructure, pharmaceutical stores, grocery stores, you name it, right? They are bombing everything. They're the ones that have decided that there's no need to play by the rules. So why are you crying now that you started this? You're the ones that broke the rules. And now Iran is playing by not the same in any way, shape, or form, but, they're also breaking some rules. Why are you crying over that? It's the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen. So my thoughts on the U.S. troops, I mean, I think that the foreign minister is correct. I mean, this is a nation that fought for 8 years against Saddam. They are more than well prepared. If they prepared for nukes, I'm sure they're prepared for a U.S. invasion. Everyone knows that for decades they have been preparing for war against the United States. Israel right now is more of a sideshow. They're letting the Lebanese resistance deal with Israel. They're letting the Iraqi resistance deal with, the Kurdish groups in Erbil in Iraq. And for Iran right now, they're mostly focused on these U.S. military bases. Also strikes on Israel, yes, but mostly the U.S. military bases. And I don't see it in any way, shape, or form going well for U.S. troops who are sent in onto the ground. I'm sure that before they do that, they'll try to send in Delta Force operators, find weak points along the border, weak points where they can possibly enter into the country with, the least amount of pushback. But even then, I could imagine that those Delta Force operators are not going to make it out alive. It's happened before. It could happen again. Special operations forces being sent into a nation like this and it not going so well. Iran has many, many men. Those many, many men have been called upon by the ayatollahs of the country to fight jihad against America. Which means that in a country of 90 million people, you will have millions of young men, millions and millions of young men, military-age men, very capable, very fit, who are ideologically driven to protect the sovereignty of Iran, who will participate in a conflict against any troops that are sent in on the ground, and it's not going to go well for them. Also, Iran still has all of their Mi-28 attack helicopters that have been provided by Russia. And those will be quite useful if the Kurdish groups or Azerbaijani troops try to launch some sort of an incursion into Iran, because they have, those attack helicopters have unguided missiles. They have very, very powerful firepower as well, and they're brand new. They're the latest addition, just from Russia. I think that's who these troops on the ground are going to be meeting first when they enter into Iran. A ground invasion, I mean, what do they hope to accomplish? This is a country that is however many times, 75 times larger than Israel, right? It's like 6-8 times larger than California. What are they going to do? What are troops on the ground going to do? The whole idea was to strike at the leadership, and then the people would rise up and overthrow the government. But instead of that, well, we did see the people go to the streets, millions and millions each and every day, but they're in support of the government. We see it all across the country, and it's not stopping. So overall, I think that the shock and awe that's on the face of the NBC News journalists, I mean, I think that is probably going to be the shock and awe on the faces of everyone in U.S. CENTCOM and the Pentagon if they try to do this. And no one should be dying. No one should be dying in this. We should have peace. We've already had at least six rank-and-file U.S. military personnel die in this conflict. I think there's 8 Kuwaiti soldiers that have died protecting the interests of the United States. We know that there's been CIA assets hit, and we don't know how many. Those numbers don't get reported. Special ops don't get reported. Black ops, CIA, those don't get reported. We know that DOD officials have also been injured, I believe unalived as well. So none of this needs to be happening. We don't have to have body bags coming back to the U.S., right? Israel's already suffering, casualties and unalivings as they try to enter into the south of Lebanon. And that is a much easier task than it is for U.S. troops to enter into Iran. So let's think twice about this, right? I saw that video yesterday of Trump in the Oval Office, and all these people are praying around him. I'm praying for what? Praying for what? Ripping away the pure human potential from everyone in Iran, all of the young children of Iran, ripping that all away, ripping their lives away, ripping their futures away, and airstrikes with sanctions, with regime change attempts, with Mossad riots, killing them in their primary school as they play volleyball, as they go to school. I mean, pray all you want. The gates of heaven are not going to be open for him. So as an American, I'll just say that, of course, I'm ashamed by my country, but I'll also say that anyone who wages a war against people of God will never be successful. The Epstein regime, furthest thing you could be from the people of God, that's for sure. And the U.S. doesn't need my shame because the defeat is inevitable. I don't need to tell you my personal opinions about the morality of the U.S. because it's irrelevant. What really matters is who's going to win. Troops on the ground, I'd hate to be in the shoes of any of them, and I'd hate to be their parents when those body bags come back flying into the United States, to be buried at our military cemeteries, because there's sure as hell going to be a lot of them. And there doesn't need to be one casualty that takes place. So we'll continue to follow this, but I wanted to share that video with you. Absolutely incredible. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.